No.
Apologies, guys, we're back. Amaani, I believe we lost you at about the second fold. So when you were showing them how to fold the second paper that wasn't an MRW, it's about where we lost you. So if we can pick up from
we discussed it. You just what we talked about.
Okay.
Yeah.
We good? You ready?
People are so informed. That's fine.
All right, so we're back. We'll technical difficulties. But, so I think I was explaining something about how the paper should be. We're good? All right, how the paper should be once you have folded it. So I think I'll just recap over it once again. So what it is that once you've created your fold should actually look like this. It should look, once you turn it on its side, it should look either like an M or a W. And that's the correct way the fold should be. However, when we create our fold, once we have folded in half, and we have folded in half again, when we unfold it, the side doesn't quite look like an M or a W. And to ensure that we have our correct folds, all you have to do is you have to follow the fold, but when we get to the end, we will reverse the fold. So looking at our paper, we're going to follow the first fold. See, it has a V shape. We're going to follow the first fold. We're going to follow the second fold, but on the third fold, because third one wants to envelope this one back over, envelope over the other two, we're going to reverse the fold. So against the crease line, we are going to fold it backwards. So folding against the crease line, folding it backwards to create our W or our M. So now that we have created now I have about four actually. Now that we have created our accordions, we can use these to create the pages of our book. So my book is going to be approximately, let's say 12 to 16 pages, right? And you can add as many folds as you like to create as long as a book as you want. For example, this one I have here, which has 2 folds attached to each other, creates a relatively long book with about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pages. And you may think, I have all these pieces of paper, but how am I going to attach them? It's really simple, actually. So what we do, I'll show it with 2 first. I'm going to show it with 2 of our accordion folds to show you how you can attach and create a longer book with more pages. So I'm going to make sure, because I have 2 sides, I have my good side and I have my scrap side. I'm going to make sure I have the good side facing y'all so you can see what I'm doing. And so that when I create the book, it has some type of consistency. So it's all flat, no printed. So I put the scrap on the back side. So what I will do is, the easiest way I find is to align them. So I'll put one on its head, another on its head, and then I see how I can fit them together. So one way, or the way that we'll be doing today, is that we'll be attaching page to page, so that when it comes together, it looks like it's one piece. And we'll be using our glue and our brush to attach them. So once I've determined where my pages are and how they're going to fit together, so just like this, fit together, make sure that they are touching, make sure that the pages aren't going over the crease line. So I'm aligning it so that this edge of the paper is touching this corner or crease and not any over, because if it's a little bit over, it can cause your book to become misshapen. And although that's fine, there's nothing wrong with an odd shaped book. For my purposes, I'm trying to be as clean as possible. So what we'll do, once you've figured out how you want them to fit together, right? Lay them on their sides so that one is laying down in the M formation and the second is laying down in the W formation. One is making an M on the table, one is making a W on the table. So I will take my glue and I'm going to be very conservative. As little glue as possible, because the glue is wet, and the wet will make the paper move about and make it, crinkle. So I try to be as conservative as possible. So I will take the glue and I'll put just a little stream, just a very little bit around the page so that it sticks, but not so much that it will cause it to walk out or walk out. A little bit, just enough, right? Just a little bit of glue. And what I'll do is I'll take my brush and I'm going to spread the glue out as thinly as possible. Just spread it as evenly and thinly as possible across the page. Making sure that I don't get any glue on my next page, or too much inside of the little crease. A little more, very conservative, very use sparingly, as we say. Gently spread it out as thin as possible. All right. So what I'll do, this one is my M, this one is my W. I am going to connect the two. And what I'm trying to do is make sure that this edge is as close as, but not over, the inside of this crease. So be very cautious. I'm going to be a little bit conservative and not too much, not too little. As best as you can, align it so that it's as close to the crease as possible, as flat as possible to the top as well, and bottom. So once I align my paper, I'm going to look at it, make sure to see if I need to adjust it a little. Since, it's blue, it's a little wet, you could shift it around, don't worry too much. It's just paper. And once I've determined that, yes, this is how I want it, this is how it's going to be, I'm going to take my hand and press it along the paper to flatten it out as much as possible and make sure that there is as much contact as possible so that it has a perfect fit. So I'll do it on the front and I'll do it on the back as well. So now it's a little wet, but I want to show you what it looks like now. So instead of being these two loose pieces of accordion fold. You now have one complete accordion fold, ready for use for any writing or drawing. We'll get to filling the page, all right? So now that I have my folds, I'm going to add the other folds that I have as well. Very quickly, just to show you again, and also so that I have the length that I want. So I have, as I put them, I put my text to the back, and I have my blank sides in front. So again, now it's not going to look like a W anymore, but you can still see the side that you want and how you want it. So you can leave this one like this and have at least one page that comes off. That will be the page that will be attached to. And for me, I want to have a consistent look. So I want all my text to the back and all my blanks to the front. So I'm going to align them, just find where they fit, how they fold, and where I will be attaching them. So you want to make sure you plan ahead to ensure that you have the right fit. And sometimes you might find that the accordions aren't fitting as you want. So say, for example, this one and this one. Although I have my scrap side to the back, and this is the page I'm supposed to attach to, when I go to attach them, I find that, for example, these two, when I go to attach them, it doesn't, although it flows in the correct manner, the accordion is not, the side that I want is not on the right side. And you can easily fix this by folding against the creases that you already have. So for example, I want this to be blank and I want this to be on the blank side. So instead of flipping it over or trying to fold something else, I can easily just fold against all of the folds that I already have on this. So I will fold against the first one, against the second one, and against the third one. So that I have everything on the side that I want and the way that I want. So you don't have to worry so much about, oh, it's not coming together as I expected. You can easily just, it's paper, you can fold, you can reverse the fold and create a new configuration. So I'm gonna do the same thing very quickly. Add some glue, very thin, very little. Take my brush, spread it out. I'm take my next piece of paper. I'm going to align it so that each of the edges come together. Press down smooth. And then make sure everything folds together. Now I have an even longer bow. All right. So what we have now is we have the beginning pages of a book. And you don't have to stop at 3. I have a whole stack of paper that would have been, that is out of use, would have been thrown away, but I can take this paper and transform it into a usable object, something that I need, something that I can use, and something that now that I have this, I don't have to either buy it or like contribute to making more waste by purchasing things that I don't need. And so I just repurpose what I have. So you may be thinking, what can I put in this? So this is a very useful object for pretty much anything. You can use it as a notebook. Maybe you do journaling. You can use it as your journal. You can, if maybe you write poetry, you can put poetry in it. It's really just the world's an oyster. It's anything can be used and applied. And what I'll be doing today, I'll just be demoing with, I'll be creating a journal for my garden, just to give you some examples of how you can build this, how you can use it, and just give you some inspirations and ideas. So I'll be using pencils, some markers, maybe even some crayons to add some writings and drawings to my book. And hopefully I should also be showing you guys how to create a cover, because this is nice and all right, but having a cover really completes a book. And it's very simple. It's a very simple way to. The method is very simple and easy to create a cover for one of these books. So, but what we'll be doing now, we'll be. I'll just show some ideas that I have, at least to establish the book. So, I'll be. Now that we have our book, first thing you want to do is just determine where you want your book to start. Because you always got to know where page 1 is. And for me, since I'm going to be putting a cover on it, I always want to leave the first page blank. Just like how you have a normal book, like a regular notebook or textbook, the cover is always on the top. And when you turn it, there's always one page blank. And you don't, if you're not creating a cover, you can start, this could be your first page. You can put whatever you want, you can write, you can draw. This is your beginning, this is your start. But for me, since I know I'm going to be putting a cover on it, I'm going to leave this page blank. As the same, I will leave the last page blank. So if this is my cover page, this will be the page 1. I'm going to leave the cover page blank. This is going to be my page 1. And I will be starting my book from this page, to be my title page. And this book is intended to be for anything. Just me personally, I'm gonna make a journal about my garden because I love my garden. So I'm just gonna make, as my title page, I'm gonna just write my yard. My yard. Maybe I think I will add a little drawing to accentuate the page. The limits of these things are really just the limits of our own creativity. So really feel free to add anything. Make a writing about your mother. Make a writing about yourself. Like, what did you do on the weekend? What hobbies you like started? Like, it could be anything. This is just about creating something or giving yourself a space to be creative. Maybe you just want to put writings. Maybe you want to collect recipes. Like, oh, you saw a recipe that you really love, and you want somewhere or some place to put it. So you can make a whole book just writing down recipes. You can use it as a sketchbook. Like, maybe you want to keep this outside, do some sketches. Like, oh, this flower that I found today, it's just so beautiful. I had to sketch it, and I have my little notebook right in my pocket. It would be a beautiful thing. So I'm going to be using different, I'm just drawing. I'm just using this as an opportunity to fill my page, start my journal, and create something. So I think I'm going to leave. I'm going to mark that out and cut out this paper, because this is my oyster, and it will be filled with anything that I desire. And once I finish this page, I'm going to show you guys how we can create a cover for our book as well. I just wanted to show you guys some really quick of how we can start or begin to create or fill our book. Just give you guys some ideas. Sometimes I'll make these actually. Maybe I'll make a really small one. Like, I'll fold the paper in half and do the same half and then half again to create the folds, and then use it as a quick notebook. So while I'm building something, so say I was building an easel the other day, and I used this quick notebook to go through a bunch of different designs and ideas and methods, or rather like measurement notes and stuff like that. So it could be something really simple like that. And you can really maximize on one piece of paper, and it really allows you to organize yourself, things like that. So I'm going to make this a little smaller, and then we'll get to, and then I'll show you guys how you can create a cover and how create a cover for your book and how to really complete it. A little smaller. I like shapes. I like lines. So, and I'll add a little more to that, but for that, I'm gonna add a bunch of stuff. So I think I'll add some more cutouts and objects to my journal. But before that, I want to show you guys how you can now that you have your book form, how we can create a cover. So for covers, we'll need some cardboard. I'm recycling some more office supplies that would have been destined for the garbage. But I'm going to be repurposing some office cardboard, and I'll be using some. So you'll need cardboard as well as hard paper. Well, at least two hard papers to create the backing, to create the color of the covering. So this creates the cover, with the hard center for your cover, and this is to go over it. So you'll need your cardboard, your construction paper, or your plain paper, whatever covering material you have. You'll need a scissors and a ruler, as well as some glue, and then any objects that you have. So right now I have a shell, I have some pom-poms and beads, and I'll be using that to create the cover for my book. Okay? So I'll be putting those aside. In your space. So the first thing that we have to do, we will do is measure our book. So we have our book, right? We have our book, and we want to make a cover for it. And we want to ensure that the cover fits the book, of course. So what we'll do is we need to find our height and our width of our book. So I will take my ruler, and I'm going to use centimeters just for ease, but you can use inches if you would prefer. And I'm going to measure it. And I'm going to have a piece of paper nearby me, right here, to write down what the measurement is, so I remember. So I'm going to write down height and width, so I remember. So I'm going to measure. Look at that. I'm going to measure my height. I see that my height is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 20, 21 and a half. So I'm going to write down for my height on my little piece of paper, height 21 and a half centimeters. Then I'm going to find my width of my book. I'm going to measure again and see that it is 7 centimeters. So now that we have, and generally, if you found the front, you found the height and the width of the front page, you have the height and width of the back page. So put that aside. And what we're going to do with this information is we're just going to add about half a centimeter to each of these numbers. So if I have 21 and a half centimeters now, I know that my cover is going to be, if my book height, my book measurements is 21 and a half centimeters and by 7 centimeters, then I know my cover width is going to be height 22 centimeters and width 7.5 centimeters. So we're adding half a centimeter to each of our measurements. So now that I have it written down so that I remember, so if my book measurements is 21.5 centimeters and my by 7 centimeters, then my cover measurements is going to be 22 centimeters by 7.5 centimeters. So what we'll do with that information is we're going to go to our piece of cardboard. And generally, we like to start from the edge. because the edge gives you a pretty good right angle. And we're going to measure out 2 pieces of cardboard, both 22 centimeters by 7.5 centimeters. And that will create the cover, the front cover and the back cover for our book. So what we'll do, let me take my ruler, and I'm almost gonna sheet it out. So instead of measuring out, say 7.5 by 22, I'm gonna measure 15 centimeters by 22, so that everything gets cut one time. So this is what I would do. And your book might not be the same height as mine, depending on the size of paper that you use. So it's important for you to measure out your material so you know what you're working with. I'm going to put my 15 centimeters, mark it right here. But what I also do is I will find 7.5 and mark it as well. So I know where I need to cut. And I'll do the same thing along the side. I'm going to find 22 centimeters, mark it right up here. So remember, we're measuring from the corner. And I'll do the same thing as well. I'm going to go to my 15 centimeter mark and go and measure out 22 up.
Someone's asking Amaani if a cereal box could work for this part.
Cereal box would be awesome because cereal box have very good, they're light, but they're also sturdy. I'm just using what I have, what would have been next to the garbage, which is this office box. So if you have cardboard, like from like a traditional box, whether you have a cereal box, whether you have an old puzzle box that you had that you don't use the puzzle anymore or you transferred it out, that works as well. All of it is very valid, very useful as well. Let me see. 15, 7.5. And see, once you make your measurements, it becomes easier to ensure that you have as straight of a line as possible because you're basically giving yourself guidelines to cut along. So you want to ensure it's as squared and as straight as possible. So at the top of my top line, I measured 7.5. So this 7.5 mark lines up with my bottom 7.5 mark. So that I will then, when I draw it, I have a completely straight line. So now I have 2 pieces of cardboard measured out, and both of them will be used to create a cover. So what I'm going to do is I will cut my cardboard along the edge. I'm going to cut it. I'm going to cut the sides off of this box actually. There we go. Now we have a clear pathway. I have a clear pathway to my cover pieces. And I'm going to wiggle it and cut it out. So usually I try to cut along the line that I created so that it's as straight as possible. And you can take your time, just make sure it's as lined as possible. And what I generally do is I cut the biggest shape first. Because you can always cut the center line second. But once you have the large shape out first, you can determine whether it is completely straight or you have to measure it out again. Or you have to adjust where you cut, just to make sure you have the best cover possible. So, and I've cut my cardboard away, and I have my piece. I'm going to cut along the center line to create my two cover boards. So cut along center line. To create your two pieces of cardboard. Right. So now that I have my two pieces of cardboard, I'm going to show you guys just how it lines up. So it doesn't look like much now, but this will become our cover. And you can see that that little half a centimeter that we added to our book measurements to create a cover measurement allows for just a little bit of space so that it closes around the book quite nicely. I'm going to put these aside. And what I'm going to do is I picked my color. I think I'm going to do a orange cover. There it goes. I'm going to create, so to cover my boards, I'm going to take a piece of paper and I am going to align it to the corner. So now I'll have two pieces of paper because for me, I want both of my front and my back to be completely orange. I want an orange cover, but you can do whatever material you have. You can even use cloth, actually. You just have to use this kind of same methodology in how you cut the paper out. Because once you have your cover, what we're going to do is we're going to cut out a piece of paper from this, but we're not going to cut it to the same size as a cover piece. We're going to cut it just slightly larger. So I'm going to eyeball it, but if you can maybe if you need to, leave about a centimeter away from the edge. So leave about a centimeter away, or maybe 2 centimeters away. Give yourself a little bit of space. Because these are, once we cut it out, these will be the flaps that we fold down to cover our piece of board. So leave about 2 centimeters from the top, 2 centimeters from the bottom, and 2 centimeters from the side. So that is generally just a little bigger. I'm not going to measure it. I'm pretty confident I can estimate the amount that I need. So I'll say this is about 2 centimeters. This is about 2 centimeters. I'm going to just quickly put in some lines so I can see where I'm cutting. And once you have one measured out, you can use it as a template to cut out the next one. So you don't have to use your piece of board to measure it out. So once I have my first one, cut it out. So now you see, about 2 centimeters away from each of the edges. And I'll do the same thing. Actually, I think I might be able to use the same piece of paper. Yeah. So I'm just going to use it as a template, use the one that I've cut out as a template. And cut another piece of paper. All right. Now that we have 2 pieces, we will use them to create our cover material. So what we'll do, I'll show you on one so that you can see what the method is. We're going to take our paper, our cardboard, and apply glue to it. Apply it as thinly as you can. You don't want too much because that'll cause wrinkles and rumples. But we want just enough. All right, I'll use my brush, spread out the glue. And what I'll do is I'm going to center my piece of cardboard on my piece of paper so that it leaves the approximately 2 centimeters that allowance that I gave it. Once I have placed it and I see that it is flat and appropriately spaced, I will use my hands to then flatten it out. Turn it over and do the same thing on this side as well. And I'll do the same thing for my back cover as well, or my front cover. Apply glue, brush it out. Center it on my page. And press it out. Press it on the back. And press it on the front. So now that we have our front and our back, or back or front, we now have these borders that we now have to take care of. And what we can do, what I'll do first, is I'll fold along the edges to first create the creases that the page will, the cover will be tucked into. I'll do this on the front cover and the back cover as well. Great. Once we've done that, what we'll do is you see this little corner, we will cut into it at a, we'll cut the corner pieces off. We'll cut these small triangles, leave about maybe an inch, not an inch, about maybe like a little bit of the paper left so that you can fold it over. And I'll do this to this one as well. A little bit at all, but leave just a tiny bit so that you can, once you fold it over, you won't see the cardboard anymore. What we'll do now is we will apply glue on each of the edges so that we can glue it to our cover. What I'm doing now is I'm pressing to apply my glue. I'll press it down each of the tabs to create my cover. Your glue might come up a little, but you always give it a little time and give it a little bit of pressure. On this one as well. So now we have our covers. And we will do the same thing with our covers, and we have our book. Just as I said earlier, we will glue the front and the back to the first page and the last page to create the covers of art. So that when we open it up, it'll appear as a book. Very liberally. Glue. Use our brush, spread it out. And apply it to the first page of the book, the one that's moved left to right. Ensure that it's as centered as possible. And press on the inside and the outside pages to create the cover. Repeat the same thing with the back cover. We'll repeat the same thing with the back cover. As well. And that creates your book. Now, you can fill it with anything you want. You can also do more to the cover so that it really personalizes it. You can add like knickknacks or any objects that you find to the cover, because now you have basically more blank space. And I hope you guys really fill out your books and see how you can like creatively create these like journals or sketchbooks. And I hope you guys will also share it. I think it's there will be a link in the Zoom chat as well as in the video description. So thank you. Hope you make your books decorated as you please. And that was all. You good?
Are you
Yeah, I was done. I was that's what's okay.
Okay, thanks so much. You told everyone bye.
Yeah,
Great.
okay.